Do you feel it? Holiday season is here. Festive lights, cozy weather, celebrations. Don't worry about missing out on any festivities. Plan ahead and get the symptom relief you need this season by stocking up the old medicine cabinet with Mucinex, the #1 brand doctors trust for cough and cold. Do not let a cold get in the way of your day. Be prepared with Mucinex. With Mucinex, it's not cold and flu season. It's comeback season. Use as directed.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Podcasting to you from my field here in beautiful rural Ireland for what may be a finite period. I'm Trev Downey, and this is the Anfield Index podcast, episode number 374, for which I'm joined by Lisa Marie Hanahan, and only Lisa Marie Hanahan. So it's just going to be the two of us having a chat today. We've got some interesting topics to discuss, and hopefully there'll be ones that are eminently relatable for you. But let's begin by saying hello to my guest today, Lisa Marie. How are you?
Good morning, Trev. It is morning here. While we record. I know it's afternoon for you, but it is morning. And it's a rainy morning here in lovely Middle Tennessee, but not as cold as it was earlier in the week, or as I understand it is for you right now over there in Ireland.
Yeah, it's I guess kind of typically frosty and all that type of stuff here. And what happens is if we get any sort of mild weather effects at all, it seems as if in 2023 there needs to be warnings all over the television. It's cold, lads, put on your coat. It's a bit windy. We had you know the way they have to name every little gust of wind these days. Yes. So the last storm, whoever it was called, Storm, Alphonsus or whatever it was blowing wildly through the general environs of Ireland, and as a result, our school and every school in Ireland in the regions where the storm was passing through was closed. Certainly, it was supposed to be closed for the morning, and then we got word that it needs to be closed for the day, and transport networks are down, and all this kind of stuff. By 10:30, Lisa Marie, I'm having a cup of coffee, looking out my window at home here, and it's dead still. The sun is shining, and I'm thinking, we are so soft. The whole world has gone so soft. It's ridiculous. So that's basically where we're at with weather. But as I was looking out that morning into my little patch of green, I was aware that I might have a finite amount of time that I'm going to be looking at it, because it's kind of famously been part of how I introduce every show. It's something I really associate with myself, this little corner of the world. But yeah, like I said to you at the start there, starting to think it might be an idea for me to move and not be a debt slave for the rest of my life. So big moves potentially on the horizon, Lisa Marie. That's interesting, eh?
Sorry, I had to mute. The cat was meowing. I had to kick him out of the room. Yeah, so, we moved, I guess it was 5 years ago now. And I mean, we just moved basically up the road, but it was an undertaking. So, yeah. But
the period where you're looking at every single house that comes on the market in the potentially commutable distance,
yeah.
and everything just looks like a shit version of what you've already got, and it's just, or else all the houses that are look wonderful to you are like twice your budget.
Exactly.
It's an obsession at the moment. Our local websites here, the major one is daft.ie, which I know you're familiar with because I think you've had one or two little looks around yourself. This general island, and I'm never off it. I swear to God, it's on my work computer, it's on my home computer, it's on my phone. I've got the app. It's just an obsession now. And I don't know. I don't know. I mean, can you see a situation? I know you're kind of slightly, your kids are slightly different demographic to mine, so you've got a few more years of that kind of concern. Is it part of the plan for you guys though? Maybe when you get to that certain age where you just go, oh look, we don't need to be here anymore. We don't need this kind of hanging around us. We could just downsize and free ourselves up a bit.
I mean. You're right, because we still have, well, technically all three of them still live at home. I mean, of course, Paul's off at school, so he's only here part-time now. But so we are in a little bit. But it is funny, when we bought this house, of course, 5 years ago, so the children were much younger. And I mean, part of the reason we moved was we needed more space. We were kind of tripping all over each other in the home we were in. And so we moved, and it was great. And now it, again, because the kids are that much older and not around as much, it kind of feels like we have a lot of, I don't want to say unused space, but it feels like it doesn't need to be as big as it is, now. Now, thank God we moved. We moved in fall of 2018, and had we been in our old house during lockdown and COVID insanity, someone would not have survived. I promise you. Somebody would not have survived. I'm not saying who. It might have been me. But
I get that. I can relate more than you can tell, because in the year in the 27 all through 2017, we'd been considering what we're considering now, but unfortunately something happened. There was this factory due to be built next to us, which was going to have a serious impact on our house value, if we're being perfectly honest. So it kind of really impaired us a little bit, and so we pulled out reluctantly of the plan that we are currently considering, which was to downsize, which we could have done back then. That's how long my kid's out of the house, and we could have done it then. But the thing we were looking at was a little 2-bedroom in a kind of at the end of a terrace, so you'd be cheek by jowl with a lot of humanity, and more to the point, like you said, cheek by jowl with the person you're sharing the house with. And we would not have made it. And in fact, what happened because of all that shit was I realized I actually like this space. I'm going to use this space to do something with. And now, as everyone knows, now I'm a farmer.
Well, yes, I was going to say this. Is that about the time you started your gardening adventures?
Exactly,
that you've got to think about that, because you love that, and if where you're going to end up, you're going to need you a little patch of ground.
Absolutely. It's an like, if people will forgive the indulgence of this chit chat, because it's going to be very much distracting me for the next 6 months, 8 months, however long it takes. So you might as well be aware of it, folks. If I seem a little bit distracted by times. And you know what? One thing that kind of we were going to talk about today, and I think it's a good place for us to start the opening discussion point for today. Again, maybe it's because I've got a lot in my mind, but I find myself just looking around and shaking my head most of the time. I can't engage with things. I saw our mutual friend Damo, who I've met. Always good to meet people from Twitter, and Damo is a lovely, lovely fella that I met, and actually had a couple of pints with and had a good laugh with, and hope to do it again. And I saw him saying something about, every so often I'll tweet something and then I'll have to delete it because all the crazies come out to play. And I know I've been that soldier for the last while. Everything's just making me wince and shake my head and sharp intakes of breath. And it's easier just to let it go. Most of the time I've gotten quite good at that, but I do understand the temptation to bite every so often. So But when everything is a bit crap, we really rely on football. So the question I have for you is why? Like, what is it? Why do you do it? And again, it's specifically relevant to you as well because of the sacrifices involved in terms of getting up early to talk nonsense to Irish lads on podcasts, getting up early to watch matches even earlier, you know, having your coffee to try and keep the eyes awake. It's going to have a real impact on you, the idea of supporting this team. So again, the question is why? Now, to kick us off, I have a little clip, and the little clip is a reminder of why. But also, this season gives us a little bit of the taste of both things, like why you do it and why it's probably not good for you. But anyway, 5 years ago today, this happened.
Sturridge challenged by Zuma illegally. Richarlison's just being a little daft now, and still being daft. Alexander-Arnold, one last serve, comes out, Van Dijk, and more time. Oh, Pickford's lost it, David Origi, unbelievable! It's a miscue by Virgil van Dijk, and David Origi has come from the bench and has won the derby for Liverpool. Jurgen Klopp can't believe it, the Klopp can't believe it. It is the most astonishing way to win the biggest of games, and Liverpool inflict more misery on Everton once again.
I mean, if you wanted to know why you do it, it's moments like that, right, Lisa Marie? So, I mean, let's start there. Given what it is in terms of sacrifice for you, I know you don't overplay it. We tend to emphasize it more, but it is a very big consideration. Why is it? What is it about this sport, this team, this club that makes you continue with it when you have, as we all know, a very busy professional and personal home life there? What is it that makes you want to keep showing up?
I think it's for the possibility of moments like that. You just never know when something like that's going to happen. And I love an anticipation. I love a surprise. This kind of ties nicely. We're going into the holiday season, and my kids are like, "So this is what I'm going to get you." I'm like, "No, I don't want to know what you're getting me for Christmas. I want to be surprised." But I think it ties back to, you just never know. I mean, even the game, last weekend against City, which while was not exciting at all. I think I messaged you at one point and said, why did I get up this early to be this bored? But then we got that goal from Trent, where we weren't really expecting it to happen because he hadn't really been playing all that great. And so I think it is, for me, it's just that anticipation of you never know what's going to happen. And, to be fair, some of us, a lot of times your day-to-day life, I mean, I don't want to say it's completely predictable, but for the most part, it is. You're going to get up, you're going to go to work, you generally kind of know what's going to happen there. I mean, surprises do happen, but I think for me it is. It's that you just never know. And it did get a bit tedious last season, and I think we had this discussion at some point in time, because since things were just not going well, I had come, and I think it was just a happy coincidence that went around the time I started following the team, they really got good, and we got, getting these, where we could drag a match over a line and get the win or the draw if necessary or whatever. And we lost that bit of magic last year. And so it was just, I used to go into it, and if we were down by a goal, or if we needed a goal to win it, I would just be like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it, because so many times they did pull it off, and oftentimes it was by, unexpected, not necessarily the player or the person you'd expect it to do, or it would be, Mo Salah would come through for us or whatever. And we did not have that last season, and I don't want to dwell on the past, but there was a period last year, and it was probably February, March, where, it just was like I did have some obligations because I was doing some of Nina's post-match shows. You're like, if I wasn't on Nina's show, I would not be watching this game, because it was a bit of a struggle. And I know, I'm sure felt that with, with the Raw podcasts as well. But now it's kind of come back, like I only saw the first half of the game against Lask on Thursday, but it was kind of fun to watch. I mean, yeah, we were open and we weren't doing as well, but it was fun. It was just kind of fun. But I think it is, just to boil it down to one point, I think it's just that anticipation of something could come off here, and it'll give us something to talk about and just enjoy, through the rest of your week.
Yeah, I mean, we're both famously exponents of the fun aspect of football. And
fun.
Yeah, and very much kind of openly admit that that's what we're in it for. And I think that comes from perhaps, you get to a certain stage of the way through your life, and you realize there's quite a lot of kicking in the face happens, and so it's nice to have a little bit of joy, and this is where there's a little twist in the tale in terms of this topic, and specifically that example that I brought up, and I brought it up very specifically because at the end of that campaign, and this has been a bone of contention between me and several people who I really like, really have a lot of time for, good people who stand under the same banner as us and have the same opinions about an awful lot of stuff. But where my dissatisfaction occurs is at the end of that campaign, we lose the league by a point. Yes, we win the Champions League, and it's one of the most incredible moments of all of our times as Liverpool supporters. And I would imagine right up there is probably the highlight of yours, given the enormity of that trophy and the fact that, as you say, you kind of coincide with the Klopp period. So you have experienced both things. You've experienced the incredible highs, but you've experienced just as many incredible lows where we lose finals and we lose out in the league by a point on two separate occasions. And it's very, very hard to stomach. To the extent that I don't know whether or not I've ever really gotten over it. So yeah, fun, absolutely. But I think it's important to admit the opposite too, that the end of that campaign was absolutely joy, because it's the last hurrah for that campaign was a joyous moment. But losing out in that league was just gut wrenching, as it was on other occasions as well. And what people say, Lisa Marie, is, oh well, it's City. I mean, it's City. Well, what are you going to do? And it never really washes for me, because there were occasions and during those seasons where we could have just ensured by doing X, Y, or Z that whether it was City or not, we won the league like we did the year after. And I don't know if I'm being disingenuous, therefore, when I say that I'm in football for the moments of joy. I wonder if I'm being a little bit simplistic, because that would have been my answer as well. Honest to God answer. But then I think, well, you're really a sick bastard, Trev, because you're submitting yourself to an awful lot of pain for those rare moments. So, do you see what I'm saying? Because people will say to us, "Oh, boo-hoo, first world problems. You're losing Champions League finals. Do you know what most people would do to be in that position?" Blah blah. I don't care. And when people say to you, well, it's only Manchester City. They're very, very good, and the whole aura around them perhaps bending the rules, to say the least. I don't care. I don't care. And so I'm wondering about my motivation. I'm wondering if I am a sicker puppy than I think I am. Like, why am I still in it? What's your take on that? Because you've been, like I say, your period of support has seen just as many crushing lows as it has superb highs. And, getting to finals and losing them is shit. And I know you've seen at least that happen at least 3, if not 4 times. Like, I don't know, were you Europa League first time around?
No, I really wasn't following
Hey, this is Chuck the Goat from Goat USA. I wanted to break into your podcast and tell you about the new Goat USA store at Garden State Plaza. Check us out next to Seasons 52 across from Fogo de Chao. Be the goat by wearing the goat and gift your loved ones with the greatest apparel of all time. Heavenly soft and incredibly durable, Goat USA sweatshirts and joggers are the most outstanding gifts this holiday season. So come see us at Garden State Plaza. And if you don't know, you soon will. Goat USA. Apparel for kids and adults. Chuck out.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
At that point in time, it was just kind of like, oh, did Liverpool win? I mean, if I was around, I might switch a game on, and I might check the result. But I was just getting to where I understood the big picture, if you will, the different competitions and all those things. So
17-18 then, the first Champions League final defeat was probably when you were getting on board in a big way. So your first experience is like soul crushing, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't watching that game because here's the thing. The Champions League final famously tends to coincide with my daughter's dance recital.
Of course it does.
So yes. So, I mean, I didn't watch that one live. And I do remember just, and I was kind of, it seems like I was sort of following it online a little bit and, saw, Mo's injury and was just like, oh, that's awful. Because of course the World Cup was coming up and you were really realizing what a player, Mo was and, and all those things. And so then, of course, the next year when we won it, that also, I mean, seriously, I'm checking the score in the middle of her dance recital, which she wasn't involved at the time. I mean, like I'd go sit through, a 2-3 hour performance and she'd be on stage like, twice. So now it's, she's on quite a lot. But yeah, and I mean, I think I remember I was messaging back and forth with your neighbor in Louth there, Mr. O'Donoghue, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And of course he was all excited. And again, I was just coming to realize the big picture and what a thing this was for us to have won, won that trophy. And again, even that week or whatever before when we didn't win the league, I didn't quite, I mean, it was like, oh, we were so close, but I didn't quite get yet how crushing it was to be that close and not get it over the line.
Because you weren't yet fully in.
It's becoming, those types of things are like, I think the 21-22 season, that was the harder one for me, where we just lost the league. And then, of course, the Champions League final. I mean, I was depressed for, I think, a week after all of that happened. And I mean, and it wasn't even just the loss of the match, but it was also just, the bigger picture of all those things that happened in Paris and just, just how absolutely horrible that was. And so it was really, really, that was really, really difficult. And so, yeah, so that's kind of grown with me as the awareness has grown. And I just remember us going, and I know we talked about this last year, we went into last season just so positive because we had come off that, wonderful season before, the 2 trophies we won, the 2 that we nearly won. It's like, all right, we're going to go again. And then, of course, we did it. And it just, there was a certain point last season where I'm just like, why am I doing this to myself? This is supposed to be my bit of, it's kind of a hobby, it's a hobby essentially. This is my distraction from, the other things that stress me out in life. This should not be causing me stress. And, but, the other part that has brought enjoyment for me, of course, has been the greater community of Liverpool supporters, specifically our Anfield Index family. There goes the cat again. So, yeah, I think the overall enjoyment, the more I'm thinking of it, isn't even now. It's, it started as the game and watching the team and enjoying the things that the team brought. But it's kind of grown to, when I think back of, you and I would have never crossed paths ever, likely, unless I tripped over you in a pub some point in, Ireland, if it weren't for Liverpool. And I've come to appreciate that kind of, that community that has grown, that is around the team as much as the team themselves.
That's some hideous Cam Branch level stereotyping of me, assuming that I'd be in a pub for you to trip over, probably in some prone posture, dribbling from one side of my mouth. I see where you're going with this, Hannah. I see.
Cam hasn't been on for a while, and we miss him, so.
Yeah, so you decided to keep the spirit of his Irish racism alive. Fair play to you.
No, wait a minute. How are you even getting that? Oh, because I said a pub in Ireland. Whatever.
yeah. What a wild stretch.
We would have crossed paths at the Hill of Tara while I would have been admiring the majestic countryside of County Meath. Better?
Better again. Okay, we'll edit that later. We do miss Cam. It'd be great to get Cam back on, but he's for in case you're wondering if Cam has just abandoned us, he hasn't. He's just very, very busy in his own life with some family prep going on there and lots of changes that he's trying to impact upon his domestic situation, quite physical changes, by the way, in terms of moving bits and pieces everywhere. So the poor lad's on top of his head. So we will get him back in the loop whenever he's available to do that. And one of the reasons why I thought this would be a very sort of seamless enough chat for us to have is that one of the moments, the highlight for me, you mentioned the Manchester City game and how it was, if we're like, again, loads of people afterwards, Lisa Marie talking about what a wonderful high standards of football are on display, and how they'd had a smashing time watching the game. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I really did not enjoy it.
What were they watching?
I don't know. I did not enjoy any of it. And I thought we were massively underwhelming. And I thought City were, delightfully weren't anywhere near their best. So I don't understand. But if they can get their joy from that, then I think hats off to those people. But the thing that made me laugh, the thing that made me smile, the thing that gave me a little bit of fun from the game was Darwin Núñez having a go at Pep Guardiola. And I don't care if that's puerile in extremis. I don't care if that makes me the oldest little baby in the podcasting world. It just made me giggle. I love the idea of this guy. I think I understand, and I think it's harsh on a lot of the other players, but I do understand why the crowd in Anfield has taken to him in a way that I don't think we've seen. I would imagine you haven't seen anything like this, because you've seen the idolization of Mo Salah, Bobby Firmino, for example. I was there for his last game, and the love was outrageous on display for him. He was beloved. But I've never seen anything like this. It was instant. And the guy can do no wrong. I mean, he could hit the corner flag with a shot, they'll chant his name. He could fall over in his arse, they'll chant his name. And things like that. And we saw a couple of times when he was a substitute and he was absolutely losing the plot, looking to get involved in an aggressive way. He's just a passionate guy. I think that's what people love, Lisa Marie, because that was, like I say, that was my fun. That was the thing I took out of that game. There was a bit of crack. Did you have any take on that? Because, and you'll forgive me for going down this route here, but sometimes I wonder if it's just a very sort of a blokey thing, that sort of masculine posturing. Is that kind of, do women supporters watch that and just go fucking dope, or not? Again, and the reason I ask is because I'm not sure, because my missus doesn't like sport, but occasionally we'll sit down when the rugby's on, and the reason she'll watch the rugby is because it's violent as fuck. That's the truth. And she sit there.
Kind of the reason
and
I watch it, and I don't watch it very often. But if I walk through, I'm like, I want to see a fight.
Yeah. Just sit there and wince at the hits and go, oh, great, and generally getting giddy at the violence of it. So I don't want to stereotype either. So I'm just curious. Again, just if you'll excuse me for asking, from a female perspective, when you see that, is it just do you have the same kind of indulgent smile on your face, going what a lovable dope, or are you more dismissive?
This podcast is brought to you by UJA Federation of New York. Right now, being there for the worldwide Jewish community is more urgent than ever. UJA is continuing to mobilize vital relief for Israelis on the front lines, and they're standing strong against the growing tide of anti-Semitism here in New York and around the world. Your support is essential on every front. Learn more at uja.nyc.
Hello, I'm here to annoy you. I'm here to annoy you into listening to more of me and more of others on EPL Index. We don't just have the Anfield Index stuff. We've got EPL Index as well, which covers the entirety of the Premier League. And we have 3 podcasts and a whole bunch of really good writing on EPLindex.com. The podcasts are my own Two-Footed podcast, which is every day at 4 p.m., Monday through Friday, covering the whole league. We have A Tad Predictable, hosted by Tadiwa. You know Tadiwa, he does Anfield Index. He presents A Tad Predictable before every Premier League match week. And then Kevin DeVries and his crew on the EPL Roundtable, they're every week after the Premier League match week. So make sure you listen to everything we're doing on EPL Index and follow us there on Twitter at EPL Index. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, I do not presume to speak for the entire female population, just for myself. I do tend to enjoy stuff like that, and I don't. In this specific case with Darwin, it may have been a little bit because it was with Pep, so yeah. that probably brought a little bit more of a smile, perhaps, than possibly if it had happened with somebody else. But yeah, I mean, oftentimes, especially when you can see that there isn't necessarily a chance of it getting out of hand and therefore costing us, like Klopp was right there on it. The other players, especially to me, it seemed like the Spanish speaking ones were right there, Adrian and Alexis McAllister, and it seems like there was somebody else. There was, that were right there to sort of diffuse and move away and specifically be able to, diffuse in his, primary language as necessary. Did anybody ever find out what kicked it off? I mean, I heard a couple speculations, but I don't know that there was ever any specific, official mention and there probably never will be. I mean, they probably will never actually say until one of them writes a book one day. But yeah, no, I do tend to be a little bit amused by things like that. And as I said, generally when it's something that isn't going to cost us, every now, if you see things kind of kick off in a match and you're just kind of like, oh, okay, now let's everybody calm down before, someone gets thrown out. I don't mind that happening to the other team, of course, but don't mind. And of course, and then I get amused by it if I'm watching, like another game. I mean, not that I watch loads of other football, that doesn't involve Liverpool, but, we'll have it on generally on, especially a Saturday morning. And, if I saw like, Manchester United and, I don't know, Fulham kick off against each other, then yeah, I'd probably be like, look at that. That's kind of fun. So, and if your missus likes the violence, ice hockey might also be something, although I don't think they fight as much in that as they used to. I don't think they often. But, it famously used to be like bench clearing brawls. But anyway.
It always seemed to be the point of the sport to me.
They've kind of, it doesn't, and I mean, we have an ice hockey, an NHL team here in Nashville, and I haven't been to of their games in a long time, but they used to be great fun to go to. I always kind of refer to hockey as a little bit, it's kind of, soccer or football on ice, because there are a lot of the same sort of types of rules. And I like it because it moves so fast, American football.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that frustrates the bejesus out of me is it's just, it's so much stop and start. And I'm like, let's get on with it. So anyway.
Yeah, all the American sports are an endless source of fascination to me because I'm not a native and had no experience or exposure to it. Baseball is the one that eludes me.
Ugh,
I mean,
baseball, I can paint dry.
Yeah, I mean, but people will go and they'll go to the ballpark for hours and they sit there and have the time of their lives. And you listen, I one or two friends of mine are hugely into it and they love the stats side of it. So I get it. But hockey was the one that always seemed the most visceral of the sports in every sense of that word. And, it was exciting. There was one channel that used to show it over here, just highlights packages. So I used to see a bit and then you become aware of certain names, and I watched the 30 for 30 documentaries about the various teams, and I would love to have more time in my life to follow different sports, but a bit like you, not only do I not really watch other sports much these days, I don't even watch much football. In fact, I just watch Liverpool, if I'm being perfectly honest. That's what I have in my life time-wise at the moment. So you run with that. And I guess, at the far end of that moment with Darwin Núñez and his little outburst is Pep Guardiola, who you will be aware of being very much my least favorite man in football, and that's quite. I tell you what, that's quite a sentence, because you may not have noticed this because, of course, I'm famously affable, but I don't. There's a lot of people I don't like. And, there's quite a lot of people I realize that I don't like. I do my best to be affable and to not let people get under my skin and stuff, but there are a few people, especially in football, who I really, really don't like. And I thought it'd be interesting to get your take on this. And again, because of the different perspectives and different sort of durations of our and timelines of our individual support here of the game, because Guardiola, regardless of how long you want to stretch out my ridiculously long timeline, because I'm old as dirt, I still have him right up there at the top. He grates on me in a way that I can't really fully articulate. It's the prissiness, it's the arrogance, it's the theatricality that borders on cringe all the time. And it's just this kind of aloof, like I say, arrogance that really, really bugs me. There's no need for a guy who's as successful as him to be quite so obnoxious. But an awful lot of people forgive him everything because of the trophy count. That doesn't wash it for me. You see, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind giving me your top three. And the reason I was asking you this, and again, in an effort to tie things together, because I'm always trying to do this, I like my podcast to be like the end of the Usual Suspects, where Dave Kujan is putting it all together. And it's all sort of coming together. He's realizing that he's just had a number done on him. Because in that little clip, you may have heard a reference to a certain Richarlison being daft and still being daft, apparently. And my God, Mr. Richarlison is right up there in my top five of current annoying characters. But that's enough for me. I want to hear who it is that gets on your goat. Like, who is it that you love to hate in the game? I think one of them may well have gone abroad.
No, I mean, all right. So yes, Harry Kane, I know that's who you're referring to. The thing with Harry Kane is not so much Harry Kane himself, because I do obviously recognize he's a wonderfully gifted player. What bothers me the most about Harry Kane was all the fawning over him, especially, in the last Euros competition where, they were all about ready to knight him on the field. That, when I take a step back and look, that's what annoys me the more about Harry Kane, not himself, or even necessarily any specific way that he plays, although, he was really good at doing that sort of back into people and, knocking them over. And yet he got the foul or the penalty for it. But so Herring really doesn't. And again, now that he's over in the Bundesliga and I don't have to hear about him, ad nauseum, I really am fairly neutral about him these days. Richarlison is definitely one. He is such a bell end. And every time I see him, I just want to slap the shit out of him. I mean, he is just, as you say, a dreadful gang of lads. I mean, like the poster person for that. I mean, one of the highlights for me last season was him scoring that goal and being all ridiculous and celebrating. And then 30 seconds later, we scored, another one. It was brilliant. That was honestly probably one of my highlights of the season.
Glorious.
Now, there were many to choose from, but that would certainly be probably in top 3 moments. So yeah, Richarlison for sure. I know there's others. Now I'm drawing a blank. Pep. And the thing with Pep was it's really only been in the last couple of years that he has truly started getting on my nerves. And I think it just took me a little bit longer to realize the more I was kind of exposed to him.
Oh, no, he's gotten worse. He's gotten worse.
He has gotten worse.
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, because he just seems, it's so, I don't even know what to call it. Just disingenuous and like the whole thing in the press conference ahead of the game against us. I don't know if you caught this, where he didn't know how to say Dominic Szoboszlai's name. And I'm like, really? I mean, come on.
Well, actually take it back about 3 seasons. And that's when the descent into the truly obnoxious Guardiola began at a press conference. And I think it was himself and Kloppo. It was obviously a high profile match. I have lost track in my mind of which game it was, but he was being interviewed and Jurgen was waiting in the wings, and the press had obviously started to show a little bit of interest in the fact that Jurgen was in the wings, and he obviously took the hump a little bit, and he got up and he made a big song and dance about, here's Jurgen Klopp.
Yes.
And he did this big gesture towards, and Klopp's face was an absolute picture, because Klopp realized what was going on, and that this was not a friendly gesture, that this was someone who had a stick up their ass about something, and was bent out of shape. And he just sort of raises his eyebrows or kind of rolled his eyes a little bit himself and just goes, okay, well, screw that guy, and just gets on with his part of the press conference. But that was the moment where I thought everyone finally got to see what I've been picking up on, which is that, I can't describe it better than prissiness, the kind of like, sort of it's just an obnoxious kind of arrogance and an assumption of their own certitude all the time and their own importance, and it's really strong in him, and I find it obnoxious, and to the extent that all this, the love in inverted commas Pep has always done my head in. Like I've probably gone over the top with it, but it's just he is really up there. And you mentioned, we both mentioned Richarlison. I knew Harry Kane was going to get a mention from you, but we look around the league and there are some bad individuals, but where the next sort of villain type for me comes in is collectives, like certain groups of fans when you go to their ground that are just an awful bunch. I mean, we've had a couple of examples this year of sets of fans coming to Anfield and chanting all sorts of obnoxious, frankly Tory type chants about poverty and societal decline that just make you cringe and sort of make you wonder, what decade is it? So they'd be kind of the next on my top 3 would probably be a collective, like Nottingham Forest fans, for example. I'm not a huge fan of Crystal Palace fans, I'll tell you. They make a great atmosphere, but they're not a very good bunch of fellas. So you see where I'm going with that? Does that sort of resonate with you a little bit, given the experiences of the last couple of seasons?
Absolutely. And now, I mean, not necessarily, I don't think because of the poverty chants or anything, but Everton fans right now, they're just so whiny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I mean, they may have some cause. I'm not going to, deny that, but they just seem such a miserable group of people. And again, they've probably got some cause for that, but they just seem generally miserable, and I'm kind, and where a part of me might have at one time had some sympathy, I don't any longer, because it's just to return to the word we've already used multiple times, obnoxious. I mean, they're just, the booing and the, and the general atmosphere that they create in their stadium is it just seems very, and again, I have yet to go over and experience, any of these, stadium atmospheres firsthand. I only get kind of what I get through the TV, but just in general, they look just like such a miserable group. That I don't really want to have anything to do with them.
Hey, this is Chuck the Goat from Goat USA. I wanted to break into your podcast and tell you about the new Goat USA store at Garden State Plaza. Check us out next to Seasons 52 across from Fogo de Chao. Be the goat by wearing the goat and gift your loved ones with the greatest apparel of all time. Heavenly soft and incredibly durable, Goat USA sweatshirts and joggers are the most outstanding gifts this holiday season. So come see us at Garden State Plaza. And if you don't know, you soon will. Goat USA. Apparel for kids and adults. Chuck out.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Well, I think that's very wise on your part, and like I go back a long way with this crack, and I remember as a kid there was the so-called friendly derby, and I didn't buy into it when I was a really young kid, and then sort of somewhere around my early teens, we had the horrible situation that happened with Hillsborough, and then we had the Merseyside FA Cup final. There had been one in '86, and they were actually both. They had that kind of collegial is a strong word, but there was that kind of. It wasn't that obnoxious sort of edge on it like there is now. So there's probably something to that. But I was too young, and I still hadn't been in the stadium environment. But from when I've been going to games, the games against Everton have been some of the most poisonous atmospheres by a mile. I mean, absolutely just wretched. Kind of grim and a lot of just raw aggression and hatred on display, and in both the chants and the shouts and the things you hear in the street before and after. So I mean that's raw and it's real. And I think you're right. They're an odd bunch. I think that's the most interesting thing about them. Is that whatever other word you want to throw in their direction, they are an odd bunch. And I'm speaking about a couple of Everton fans who I know. They're odd lads. Fair play to them, but I'm very fond of the two chaps. But strange men. I do want us to sort of wrap up in the next while, but also to stay kind of in the same vein conversationally. And so on the horizon, and this may seem obnoxious to use the phrase yet again in terms of the presumption of it, and please don't think that this is presumption, but on the horizon is the potential of a night of tremendous fun, not that far away from me here, were the Reds to progress as they have done so far in the Europa League. And again, I'm not sure if this is one of the ones you were able to see with your commitments. Well, the match which saw us wrap up the group winning thing, which was so important because it means now that we get to skip out the qualifying round, which is fairly important, I think you'll agree, and not have to worry about that. And instead, we can focus on the knockout round now, which I think is on the 17th and the 14th of March. And unless I'm mistaken, I don't think I am, we have the second leg of that at Anfield as group winners. That's a hell of an advantage for us, regardless of who it is that we draw. And I think an awful lot of people will be like me and hope that some big team drops in and we have a real sort of drama and a bit of occasion around that game, whatever that game happens to be, or games rather, that set of games. So were we to be successful on in that round of 16, played on the 17th and the 14th, then the quarterfinals would be on the 11th and 18th of April. So another pair of games to get through. The semis on the 2nd and the 9th of May, and then on the 22nd of May is the final. So you're looking at 2, 4, 6, 7 games to win this trophy. And you don't necessarily need to win all 7. You need to win the 2-legged games on aggregate. And we talked about this on Raw. I have a feeling that this is one that is not like we'd have a good chance of winning this, Lisa Marie. I think, this is one that the club needs to win and should win. It's a real potential source of joy and fun for us this year. And I think it would be a real success. It would complete the Klopp trophy swipe completely. And also it would leave us in a situation where we to qualify through the league for the Champions League, which we absolutely should do as well. These are high expectations, but they're the correct expectations, that we'd have, qualified twice over. And that's the kind of thing that is puts us pretty far ahead in terms of this so-called rebuild. What do you reckon?
I agree with you 100%. I saw the first half of Thursday's match. I had to get on a work call for the second half, and which I had hoped was going to be a quick work call, and I would at least maybe get to see the last 10, 15 minutes, but unfortunately it was not. So, but yeah, I mean, I think we have every reason to be optimistic that, well, first of all, I mean, yes, wonderful that, I mean, I don't think there was ever any question that we were going to qualify out of the group. The hope and the question and the expectation was that, yeah, we qualify first so that we can skip that next round, which, is good because that's, 2 games. I'm assuming that round is maybe it's only a one-off, but is, that we don't have to play, in February or whenever those are going to fall. So I think that is only to our advantage, not only just in general for the other competitions, that, hopefully we're going to be circling in on the, on the One Cup final and, hopefully going forward, with the FA Cup if we will or whatever. So any less games that we don't have to play not because we're out of a competition, but just that's less juggling we have to do with the squad. I'm all in favor of. So yeah, but I mean, I think it is. Once I got over that initial disappointment that we didn't make top 4 last season and weren't going to be, in the Champions League, playing in the Champions League this year, I kind of got all in on the Europa thing. Cause again, it was a competition that I hadn't really per se experienced. Because again, I was just sort of starting to follow the team when they, were in it the last time. So while I understand it's, it's not necessarily where we want to be, I'm all for something that, we've got a pretty good shot of winning. And as you said, completing the set for Jurgen so that, he's got them all. to line up on his mantelpiece when he unfortunately moves on from us one day. So yeah, I think it's exciting, and I think it's a good step for this rebuild that we all kind of talk about but don't want to talk about, if you will, the Liverpool 2.0. But I think it can be a really important step for that progression for the team. We have so many new players that weren't around. Heck, even when we were in this most recent Champions League final a couple of years ago, if you think about it, how much the squad has turned over since then. So to give a lot of these players that sense of occasion and competition, before we get back into the Champions League, I think can only benefit us as well.
Yeah, and we are in a better spot than when Klopp arrived first in terms of the spine of the team. No doubt about it. There's a better base there, but it is still an overhaul, regardless of whether you want to use the word rebuild or not. The midfield is very close to a rebuild, but the overhaul has occurred up top as well. I mean, it's not that long ago we were talking about our glorious trio, and now Darwin and Luis Diaz are nominally two of that three. That's a turnaround. And in defence, we will, I hope, begin to see a turnaround in personnel there as well, because we have a need for it on the flanks for sure. And that will, I think, probably take at least until next summer. But it is very much a changing of the guard, and there is a potential that the team in midway through next season will only have 3 or 4 of that kind of all-conquering side still playing at their very best. And I think that would be absolutely optimal for us, because it would mean hopefully that we've made the right recruits and lads who are capable of playing first team football. But in the short term, this idea of the UEFA or Europa league and the fact that it's, the finals on up the road, I'm looking at who's left to drop in. So in Group A, it's West Ham and Freiburg on 12 points each going into the last game. Marseille and Brighton are 11 and 10 going into the last game. It's Betis and Rangers on 9 and 8 going into the last game. Atalanta and Sporting are on 11 and 8. So likely, probably Sporting would be potential opponents there. Then there's our group, Rennes and Villarreal. Yeah, I mean, so they're on 12 and 9, and Slavia Prague and Roma on 12 and 10, Leverkusen and Karabag on 15 and 7. Karabag very much, and Molde in the second spot there. And obviously then we have the excitement of people dropping in from the Champions League as well. The potential there of, I think, currently Newcastle, possibly United, PSG are probably the biggest names that we might have there. So there is a kind of a path that could be very exciting indeed for us to navigate through to get to that game in Dublin. And what I'm saying right now on the record is, if we do get there, to add to the hashtag fun, seen as it mightn't be my field for much longer, if anyone wants to come over, it'll be May, so I can't guarantee the weather, but if anyone wants to come over and put up some temporary accommodation there, tents or whatever it happens to be, I will feed you. That's all I can tell you, and I'll bring you and I'll bring you to the match as well. I will drive you.
I think I already called that last spring.
I think you may have. I think
I already made my reservation.
Well, you may actually be lucky enough to be inside.
Oh, okay. give me a square of the living room floor. Excellent.
So I mean, look, the potential for crack there is unbelievable, and I really hope that that's how our season ends, with us flying in the league and heading towards another European final. It seems, I know, a little bit presumptuous to be talking like that, but then again, if we can't presume about this bunch of lads and this manager, then I think we might be missing the point, because they are and have proven themselves to be worth relying on over the course of Klopp's tenure. And it's just, it is an exciting time to be a Red. Again, it does feel like we're a little bit ahead of the game, as opposed to where people thought we might be when the season kicked off, in terms of this rebuild, overhaul, reboot, whatever way you want to put it. And once we're knocking along in this positive way that we are at the minute, we'll be very much enjoying doing these podcasts. And guess what? If it goes all pear-shaped, we'll also enjoy doing the podcast, because some of the best fun I've ever had was on podcasts when things have gone astray. So you can rely on us here to try to keep you entertained as we have today. And I want to thank Lisa Marie, because it's a bigger ask when there's only two of us, and the ball's bouncing back to you a lot more frequently than it would be if we had our usual panel. So as ever, thanks very much for today.
Always a pleasure, Trev. I can generally talk about just about anything if someone gives me the opening, but for the most part, talking is generally not a problem for me. Ask my parents. But I'm glad we were able to make this time. As I say to you often, when we aren't able to make it work to do this pod, it's kind of a bit of a letdown and a disappointment, although I understand my life gets in the way, your life gets in the way, everybody's lives, sometimes just get in the way. But it is a bit of a disappointment when it's been a couple weeks before we've had a chance to get together and talk about life in Liverpool and all the things. So thank you for making this work today.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you indulging my house chat, because it's going to keep coming.
That's fine.
I'm sorry to tell you all, but I'm just I went a bit southern there for a minute.
Gosh, I'm rubbing off on y'all.
There you go. Y'all are. So we'll wrap it up with thanks to Lisa Marie. I have been Trev Denny. This is the Anfield Index podcast. And by the way, if you're not listening to all the other wonderful content on this channel, what's wrong with you? Go and have a listen. Go and check it out. There's a show literally for everyone. There's so much content, such a variety of voices, wildly differentiating views. There is no one unified agenda. Let me tell you that for sure, because some people would stab each other in the eyes rather than agree. And yet that's absolutely fine, because the atmosphere on this channel of ours is inclusive and genuinely friendly. And we can accept two ideas at once in our heads. Imagine that. Anyway, that's been us for this week. Episode 374 will be back for 375. Mind yourselves.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index, and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.